Yes, go ahead.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is our favorite location, 2825 Edson Avenue. Do we have the applicants here?
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone again. Carl and George and everyone else. Dan Eggers from Greenberg Trarg representing the applicant.
Okay, what do you have to tell us tonight?
All right, so I have a PowerPoint, which I sent to George if I'm not able to share my screen, and I seem to be having some issues with my screen share. George, are you able to pull it up? Oh wait, maybe I can get it now. Sorry about that. Share.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm ready to share if you're
Yeah,
having trouble.
I'm having some issues with it for whatever reason.
All right, so hold on. Share content. All right, can you see it?
Yes, thank you, George. I appreciate that. You'd
Not a
think
problem.
after 15 months of doing all these virtual meetings, we'd all have it down pat, but what can I tell you? All right, so good evening. Dan Eggers from Greenberg Trarg, representing Extra Space Properties 2 LLC, doing business as Extra Space Storage, in an application to the Board of Standards and Appeals to extend the term of the variance at their storage facility at 2875 Edson Avenue for another 20 years. I'm joined by Brett Nelson and Ed Donaghy on behalf of ownership, and Dennis Flynn, the project architect. As you recall from prior meetings, the storage facility is on the same zoning lot as Acadia's shopping center, which is directly beneath it in that photo that you see, near the New England Thruway. The storage facility is, as I said, north of the shopping center at Arno Avenue between Grace and Edson. Can you move to the next slide, please, George?
Yes.
Thanks. And there's a image of the building. The variance was granted in 2001 by the BSA for a 20-year term to allow the 5-story, approximately 170,000 square foot storage facility, a commercial use in an R4 residential district where commercial uses, as you know, are not as of right. This was done at the same time, but under a different calendar number as the shopping center's variance, and both variances expire on July 17. After the variance was granted, the BSA approved in 2003 and 2004 2 minor changes regarding the facility's fire protection systems and signage. The storage facility received its first TCO in 2004 and its permanent CO in 2007. George, can you move to the next slide, please?
Sure.
Thanks. There's some more pictures. That's the Edson Avenue view. Next. George, can you move to the next slide? That's the Grace Avenue frontage. Next slide. There's another view from Grace Avenue. And next, please. Right, another angle from Grace. And next slide, please. All right. So thank you, George. So the existing site conditions comply with the BSA's approved plans with 4 minor exceptions. Next page, please. The accessible parking stalls have been relocated from the Grace Avenue side to the Edson Avenue side, as shown on this plan. Next, please. There, that shows you an aerial view of the accessible spaces. Next, please. Landscaping, some trees were not installed. Those are shown there. But there's still landscaping near Edson Avenue. Next, please. That's the location. Next. Right. There's the Edson Avenue side. Next, please, George. And there were minor floor plan changes shown here. Relocated stair, the double elevator instead of a single elevator. Next, please. The office the facility's office was relocated. A caretaker's apartment was added, which is shown on the certificate of occupancy. Next, please. And lastly, the accessory building signs are higher than the approved height of 48 feet above curb level. Next, please. Yep, there's an aerial view of the sign. Next. Yep, there's another elevation showing the sign. Next, please, George. And there's an image from the parking lot. Next, please. There's a ground sign that wasn't installed. Next, please.
Done.
So we know from the prior meetings that you have asked for a sidewalk to be constructed along Grace Avenue adjacent to the site. Extra Space is committed to constructing the sidewalk. There's a preliminary engineering plan, I'm told. They plan to apply for DOT and DOD permits in July and complete construction around September. And they are coordinating with Acadia, who has previously committed to construct a sidewalk along their portion of the zoning lot adjacent to Grace Avenue. And in fact, they're using the same engineer. In sum, we respectfully request that you recommend to the Board of Standards and Appeals that once the sidewalk is built, the variance be extended for another 20 years. And you note that in response to the comments previously made by the board and at the BSA, that there's no longer a request that the term of the variance be eliminated. So thank you again for your time, and we welcome any questions.
Yeah, I would just like to tell you, we won't approve anything until we see the sidewalk in operational. Because we have a big concern. We've been asking for this a long time. I understand, you know, when you have to get an architect and engineer and everything put together to put the sidewalk in. We do not want to approve anything until the sidewalk is actually in place.
Right, and the Board of Standards and Appeals has taken the same position. They're not going to grant the extension until the sidewalk is built. So we understand that.
So when's the ETA of the work to begin?
September. So permits in July and work complete in September, just like the Acadia sidewalk.
So you'll be putting it in the same time?
Correct.
Basic?
Yep.
Same contractor?
Same engineer. Can ownership speak to whether a contractor's been selected yet? I don't believe one has, but Ed or Brett?
Yeah, not as of yet. We just got the plans about a week and a half ago, and we'll be bidding it out to the same contractor and then making a final decision. Our hope is to use the same one, though.
But personally, I think that would be the most logical way to go because he does the whole one block front. You know, there's going to be no issues, you know, with anybody else.
Yep.
Will the sidewalk be covering the entire block?
Yes.
It'll be from Bartow to Arno, as far as I know.
Right. These two properties, from Arno to Bartow along Grace.
You're not planning to put any curb cuts in the sidewalk, are you?
No new curb cuts, no.
Anybody on the land use committee have questions?
Dr. Burke has a question.
I guess we'll let him ask. Go ahead, Dr. Booth.
Thank you. So I have a couple of questions on some slides that you presented. So can we go back to slide 12, please? That's not slide 12. Okay, so let's look. Yeah, all right. So slide 12. So I'm looking at this where it says I'm looking at the plan, the original plan that is outside. It says photographs showing where trees were not installed on the Edson Avenue side. But I'm looking right there and I see a tree. So you have I see where this is a tree right here that's pointing to the arrow that is at the looks like the entrance where you're now proposing that the handicap spaces go. But I see a tree right there. I mean, so can you explain that slide?
Sure. So actually, the tree that you see in that slide is a street tree. It may not be easy to tell from the photo due to perspective, but that's actually a street tree beyond the property. So, and the handicap spaces are already there. So there's no proposed changes in the conditions except that we're open to considering putting in some additional landscaping there if the community board would like. Because as you can see, there's space there to plant additional landscaping in that planting area.
Well, that actually leads me to another question because I thought that I heard you say in the earlier slide that you were moving handicap spaces from the Grace Avenue side to the Edson Avenue side. And if I'm looking at this slide right here, this is the Edson Avenue side because you have it illustrated as such. So tell me did I misunderstand what you stated?
Right. We're not proposing to do that. It's already been done. We're asking that the BSA legalize that site condition in connection with their extension of the term of the variance, which is standard. You know, the BSA grants an approval. There's an approved site plan, and then for whatever reason, due to operational considerations or site constraints, there are minor deviations from the site plan. And then when you go back to the BSA, you ask them to now approve those minor deviations, and that is one of those minor deviations we're asking them to approve. So it's already been done.
What benefit? Well, never mind. I'm about to ask a question that I think I see the info. Let's go to slide 16, please. So here, I'm curious. It says the accessory building signs are higher than the approved height of 48 inches above the curb. So I take it that's advantageous. Can you explain to the audience why that is?
Sure, and you may be able to actually see that there's a tree in the photo, and
I see it. Okay.
I've been told that when the signage was replaced a few years ago in connection with a rebranding, they wanted it above the tree line so that people would be able to see the sign better.
Okay, so let me ask a question this way. So anything above 48 feet would be permissible by the BSA. Is that correct to assume?
Well, the approved height was 48 feet. This is a few feet higher. I can't quite make it out from the plan, but that's one of the minor deviations we're asking the BSA to approve on this go around.
That's what you're saying. So it hasn't been approved, but you had to do that because of the tree.
Yeah, and it was approved by DOB. DOB issued permits. The sign was moved up a few feet, and this is now something that we're looking to the BSA to quote legalize is the term that's used.
Okay. Let's go to slide 19, please. So now this sign was not it was approved, but it wasn't installed. I'm just curious as to the rationale. Not that I wanted it installed, but I'm just curious as to the rationale as to why you guys didn't install that.
Yeah, we've looked into this, and this is of course a while ago now. But Ed, do you have any knowledge of why this wasn't installed?
No, I don't know the full knowledge, but it looks like the wall signs were preferred rather than having something that blocks eyesight, traffic, driving, stuff like that. So I think they always prefer a wall sign for maintenance and just to get it away from any possible, damage in the future by trucks and stuff.
Yep.
Okay, well, that makes plenty of sense since you stated that. Plus, of course, you have the sign, which is above the approved 48 feet anyway. So, I mean, most people would, have their eyes trained to that. So I just want to hear what your explanations were, with that. Now, I have a question that, and again, this is really with the Arcadia people and being that the attorneys are the same. I was under the impression that the sidewalk construction was going to begin later this month. So why am I now hearing that it's starting in September?
No, not that it's starting in September. What was initially said was that the sidewalk construction would be complete in September, and that's still the plan. And the
Okay,
plan
complete. Okay, my apologies.
right. Everything is
Okay.
still on schedule, as from what we've said to you months ago. Yeah.
Okay, so has it started at now?
So Acadia has, and I'll give you an update for Acadia, since as you pointed out, we are representing both of them. So Acadia has filed with DOB, and that filing is now under review by DOB. They're planning to file with DOT this week, and they are very close to awarding a contractor. They expect that will happen in the next few days.
Okay. Well, thank you, Attorney Edges. And again, this is why I'm so glad that we did not approve the variance prior to, and not that you aren't here in good faith, because clearly you are. But again, this is the reason why we're so glad that the BSA took our position. And so I want to thank, like I said, the district manager for help leading and, helping me as well, do what we needed to do. So, as well as the leadership of the land use committee. But, to that end, this is why accountability matters, because of instances like this. So again, thank you very, very much.
Sure, you're welcome.
Really? You made it? Oh, you made it.
Can I ask you a quick question? Who's going to sign the permit? They're going to sign it down on Water Street in Manhattan, or they're going to sign it on Waynesbridge Road for the sidewalk?
Where they're going to sign the permit?
Yeah. Which part of the DOT is going to sign the permit? Is it at Water Street in their Bronx office, or in Bronx office in Waynesbridge?
Oh, I see the question. I don't know. I can ask them and get back to you on that. Ed, would you happen to know off the top of your head how that would work? Okay.
No, yeah, I don't.
I'll let you know.
Okay, I guess it's where your expediters hooked into. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Sure.
Anybody in
George
the,
has a
on the
question.
committee have any further questions?
Yeah, George.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you, Carl. So, Dan, if I heard you correctly, you said that the other group was moving forward and they already made a submission to DOB. Is there a reason why you weren't doing a similar filing? Is it because it's two different addresses, or?
Well, I think it's really a function of the fact that, as you know, I mean, Extra Space is here later than Acadia was. They began the BSA process later, so they're just lagging a little bit, but it will eventually catch up, and they're both on track, pending, no unexpected delays with DOT or DOB permitting, to be complete in September.
Okay. I understand there was also an issue of the retaining wall. Has that been squared away?
So just speaking for Acadia here, since again they are a little further along, yes, there's the builder's pavement plan addresses the retaining wall, and that's being handled. So they're going full speed ahead with that.
So the reason I asked on Extra Space is because it would seem to me, and I may be incorrect, that Extra Space has a majority of that lot. So the retaining wall I thought was Extra Space. Is the retaining walls Acadia?
Well, so the retaining wall is on the Acadia portion of the property.
Okay.
And Ed, if I'm not mistaken, there's also retaining wall on the extra space portion, right?
Yeah, the initial plans, preliminary plans show some retaining wall on portions of the sidewalk right now. So it's like the tie-in at the Arcadia, and then I think also a little longer down our stretch. So there is a retaining wall shown on ours.
Okay. I'm very curious to find out because I've gone to every single agency and everybody feigns ignorance. Who owns the property right behind Extra Space Storage, which is Arno Avenue? You have I don't know if it's yours, but it would seem to me like they're encroaching on your property. They're running a storage business and they're parking trucks behind that facility. So is that yours or does that belong to the city? Who owns it?
Well, as you know, Arno itself, the map but unbuilt portion of Arno is in city jurisdiction. Are you referring to the lot along the Edson Avenue frontage next to?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because so there's like a carve-in on as you head in the
Right.
middle of, yeah. So it looks like, that there's and there's trucks parked in that portion of there. I mean, I could go back to the sharing because you actually have a picture of it on
Yeah,
an aerial.
yeah.
But who owns that? Because, like I said, I've reached out to DCAS. DOT is ready to put up bumpers and shut that down completely. But I don't know if Extra Space is leasing that property out. I want to know who owns that property.
Yeah, Ed, extra space doesn't have anything to do with that, right?
Correct. Yeah, the bump out or the bump in, if you want to call it, is not our property. So there is an adjacent owner. I can't speak of who that is. I don't know personally, but we do not own that little area there.
Okay. So the unfinished street is obviously not yours, but that bump in is a completely different space owner?
From what I've heard, yes, that's it's something that we looked into, possibly purchasing from somebody, but that's all I've heard through the discussions at our company.
All right. Can you look into that? Because my understanding of this lot, it was split, it was subdivided just twice. There's only two lots, 1 and 2. Am I wrong, Dan?
So you're correct. There's two lots that are part of this zoning lot. There's the extra space tax lot, lot 6, and then there's the Acadia tax lot, lot 18. And then there's an out parcel on this same block, which is what's along Edson, and that's someone else that has nothing
Okay.
to do with this zoning lot or extra space or Acadia.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, so I will look into that. I'll use a city map to see if I can, or Acris to see if I can locate who the owners are. Just so that we're clear, because when we met with DOT at one of our previous meetings, it is an unfinished street. Is Extra Space Storage looking at building a sidewalk from Grace to Edson?
So we had looked into this, and we reached out to DOT, and we found the waiver of the sidewalk construction from when the facility was built, and that was a waiver for both Grace and Arno.
Yeah.
They were granted then because, as you know, Grace and Arno were unmapped but unbuilt streets. Since then, Grace has opened, and as we've been discussing, Extra Space and Acadia will build a sidewalk along Grace. Arno Avenue is currently unbuilt, and we understand that DOT and city planning have no current plans to open Arno, so that waiver does remain in effect. And because of that, Extra Space does not plan to construct a sidewalk along Arno at this time. But if in the future the city decides to open Arno, we can certainly revisit it then.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. I completely hear you. It is going to be one of our requests that, I don't know if it needs to be a capital project, but that street gets done. I mean, the whole purpose, we had to wait 20 plus years for Grace Avenue to be finally built out. I don't want to wait another 20 years for Arno, just one stretch of property. And I think, again, I know it's just your side of the sidewalk and it's not fair because the other side of the sidewalk's not going to get built. but we are looking for DOT to do that.
Right. Understood. And when that time comes, we will do what's
Okay.
what's required. Yep.
All right, fair enough. I'm good. I have no more questions.
Does anybody else have any questions for the applicants? Hearing none, I would like to close the meeting at 19:29 hours. Do I have a second?
No, Mr. Strickland, you can't. We've got a couple of other items on the agenda.
No, we've got other stuff. I'm talking about Edson Avenue.
Oh, okay. You said close the meeting.
Well, the meeting with Edson. Because we can't start the one with city planning until we close the one with Edson Avenue.
Second,
Because they're not part of the same thing.
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for attending the meeting tonight.
No problem.
And let us know how everything is going so we can keep on top of it.
Yep.
And if you need our assistance, please let us know.
You got it. Thank you so much again for your time, everyone. Take care. Be well.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Is city planning there ready to start?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, you're on board now. This has in relationship to hotel special permits for spas, gyms, and massage parlors.
That's correct.
Okay, you got the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Ward 12 members. My name is Manny Lagares. I'm the Bronx planner with the Department of City Planning. And joining me today is Jutan Horseman, also with our office. Today, I'll be presenting two zoning text amendments. The first one will be a citywide hotel special permit, and the second one would be the health and fitness text amendment. I will take questions, but I'll reserve those to the end of each presentation. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Okay, having a little difficulty in sharing the screen. Let me try that again. Okay, I believe I was there. Okay, one more time. Okay. Let's open the file. Okay. You see the, try that again. Okay, can you see the presentation?
We see it, Manny.
Good.
Yes,
You can see it?
yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, this text amendment creates a new special permit that is citywide for hotels and also ensures that they do not affect the surrounding area. The special permit, the text amendment also creates a consistent framework for hotel development throughout the city. Between 2009 and 2019, New York City experienced growth in tourism and in its hotel pipeline. Hotel growth was driven by international and domestic travelers who came to New York City for its cultural offerings, with sightseeing and shopping being the principal reasons for about 86% of international visitors. We had 67 million visitors in 2019. As you can see by looking at the chart, the number of hotel rooms increased from 80,000 in 2009 to 128,000 in 2019. And also on the screen, you can also see that the number of hotels went from 404 in 2009 to 705. So a substantial increase. This growth has resulted in the creation of various special permits. You may recall that in 2018 alone, there was the special permit for development, hotel development in M1 districts. Also, there have been other special permits in special districts throughout the city. And again, we're trying to get a consistency in the review of these hotels, development of these hotels. As stated earlier, our goal is to have a consistent framework. And also, we want to make sure that there are no negative effects in the surrounding areas that these hotels are being developed. And this slide here also shows you in red the hotel locations, predominantly in Manhattan, as you can see from the screen. This map indicates the area where the new special permit will be required. These are outlined in purple. It also indicates the area where a special permit is currently required, which is outlined in gray. The gray, basically your M1 hotels that was approved in 2018. And getting a little closer, you can see your district, community district number 12. This is what the proposal will allow. The areas in purple that you see on the map, that's where these anybody coming in to develop a hotel will need a special permit. And as the board knows, a special permit is a discretionary action which will be reviewed by the community board, by the borough president, by the borough board if it involves 2 or more districts, by the city planning commission, the city council, and the mayor. So the community board has an opportunity to have a say-so when it comes to development in District 12, especially in these areas that you see outlined in purple. The gray areas, again, was for the hotel special permits that was adopted in 2018. And now I move to the timeline for this text amendment that was referred to the 59 community boards May 3rd, 2021. The community boards and the borough presidents have a 60-day review period. Then it goes to the city planning commission, to the city council, and to the mayor. So when you vote on your item, I always suggest to my boards that they do it as quickly as possible. And I know that this being the land use committee, your next board meeting, I believe, is on the 24th, can make a recommendation to approve or disapprove of this project. Hopefully, it's an approval. And now I have time for questions. Are there any questions on this proposal?
From my understanding, right now, there's an excess of hotel rooms in the city. That's why they could move some of the unfortunate homeless people into them so they have a little better life. Are these hotels that you're planning going to be open to homeless shelters if they don't fill up?
Well, that I don't know. What our department basically does is planning. And our planning here is the focus is on the demand for these hotels. As I showed on the chart, from 2009 to 2019, you can just see it was just growth after growth after growth. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, which has brought down the numbers of occupancy in the hotels, but hopefully those will come back. So what we're paving the way is for as international travelers, as well as travelers from within our own country come to visit us, we have a place to locate. As to whether or not they're going to be available to homeless, I don't.
Now, I got one other question. Are these going to be major tall buildings as opposed to 1 or 2 story motels?
Well, 1 and 2 story motels, well, these will basically be taller buildings. Again, depending on what the zoning is for the area. If you have, let's say, an R6 zoning district, you'll be able to build 6 plus stories or higher use. Now, smaller ones, that'll be in the R5 districts if there is a commercial overlay on that site. And again, the special permit that is being targeted, these areas, the ones that are outlined in purple, I don't know offhand what that zoning is. It could be a C8 zoning district where these hotels are allowed, C4, C5, or C8, very suitable for this district. But I can get back to you on that regarding the smaller.
Yeah, I would like you to do that, because my concern is when you put 1, 2, maybe 3-story motels up, they become hot sheet motels. The 3-hour kind, and we don't need any more of them in the community.
Okay. Yes, I will get back to you on that question.
I mean, I can
Thank
answer
you.
for that. It really is based on the zoning, and so along, White Plains Road, you have some C2 commercial overlays, and so that would allow up to 2-story hotels, whereas the other area that you allow for hotels would be along Boston Road. And in Boston Road, you have C42 and C81, which would allow for larger hotels. But this community district actually has pretty low applicability in general, because there's not many commercial districts, as in the full commercial districts. You have commercial overlays. And then the M1 districts, which still have the special permit, which isn't applicable. But those are the only locations where hotels would be able to be built.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
I do. I have a question. Can I ask how many are in the pipeline now for our district?
That I will get back to you on. It's a very good question. I'll have that information.
So I mean, I think answer that question the way that, like if we got back to really because today you can file directly with the Department of Buildings and you would be able to build the hotel. It would be any projects with DOB that has a hotel filed for it. I don't believe when we pulled data that we had any for Board 12, but I mean that could be checked. And so really the only difference is that the same hotel could be built. It's just it would have to go through a discretionary process, which is really what this proposal is doing.
Thank you. Anybody else?
And I need to follow up on that. And how are we justifying, or how the builders justifying putting a hotel, let's say on Boston Road? What is their justification for having a hotel in that area?
Well, the zoning seems to be what we're looking at. And that area is visualizing a lot of C8. That is a zoning where hotel development is allowed. So that's why you see that's the only area. We stayed away from the pure residential areas. We don't want to have hotels in residential areas. And again, zoning restricted less for some type of, commercial overlay, but basically a C2 overlay, C4, C6, and C8.
And to add just a little bit more to that, so a hotel in this case is a use group 5, and use group 5s are only allowed are not allowed in residential districts, and the majority of this district is residential, like R4, R5, R6s. So it would have to be in a zoning district that allows for the use group 5, which is a full commercial district or manufacturing district or one with a commercial overlay of C2 or higher. So it's based on the existing zoning today.
Any further
Okay,
questions?
board members, let me jump in here because, like I said, I've been patiently waiting to be recognized, and I haven't been, and I'm about to explode here. So let me provide some light on the situation. So when Councilman Raleigh first got elected, one of the things that he did was he contacted me about this very proposal that city planning was coming up with. And so, he and I discussed this at length, and he invited me to testify on behalf of Community Board 12 at a hearing that took place back in either late January or early February. And I actually reported that out to the community board. So if you go back and look at my report to the board, you can see where I actually discussed this. The councilman is against this particular project, as was I, for reasons that Mr. Stricker had illustrated earlier, that he asked in his initial set of questions. And so, to that end, I voted to this particular, I want to say it was, I don't know if it was a Department of Building or whether it was a city council a panel that took place. But in any event, on behalf of the councilman, I was, because I voted against it on behalf of Community Board 12. Now I knew that they were coming back, and so this is the time that they are coming back to us, and this is in time for our review. If you look at what's happening on Boston Road right now, there's a hotel that's being built that, if you notice, it sticks out like a sore thumb on Boston Road. Additionally, as Mr. Stricker has, and Ms. Benitez kind of sort of alluded to this as well, when you have these hotels coming in, and in particular, as you know, we're being bombarded with Department of Social Services and Homeless Services turning these into, of course, shelters. As you know, we're still fighting the quote unquote temporary shelter on Bronx Avenue. And so, of course, where they have not issued a plan to move out yet. And so, as you know, in particular, whether it be Mayor de Blasio who's going out, or whoever the next mayor is coming in, we always get the short end of the stick. And as much as I love Manning, as much as I love Jusan and everybody at city planning, as I said, there's no way in hell that I think, and this is my opinion, that Community Board 12 should support this. And as I said, Mr. Stricker somewhat illustrated the reason why, and Ms. Benitez as well. So that's just my opinion. So I already voted no on behalf of the board in that particular case. Now, if the board decides, or this committee decides that, we want to agree with city planning, I would suggest you do your homework first. But I personally would recommend to the land use committee that we do not go with this. I mean, that's just, again, just my personal opinion based on the knowledge that I have, and again, based on speaking with Councilman Rowley. But this is why we're here. It's not about me, it's about we, and it is up to you land use committee members and community members as well. So I'm done. Thank you for your time.
So
Carl,
we're done with this.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You
Go
called
ahead.
me, Harry? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Go ahead, George.
Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry. So I just, Manny or Jutan, you can tell me, I think Dr. Burke might have this wrong. I mean, I understand this to mean that you are empowering community boards to actually vote on this issue.
Yes, yes, we
Similar,
are.
yeah. So I think, Dr. Burke, you might be conflating this with the Boston Road Hotel. I know that you testified in regards to that, not to the city planning text amendment, because like the M1 text amendment, city planning is asking us to weigh in. Now, my question is that our role on the M1 text amendment, and I'm assuming it's the same way here because I didn't read anything different. It's just advisory.
Yeah, I mean, to simplify this text to its simplest form is, does the community board want to weigh in, or does the community board want to weigh in on every single hotel that could go into the city? And so this would make it a discretionary approval process, which would make it a full ULURP. That means that every applicant, every hotel in the future would have to go through a full environmental review and go through a full process, as compared to today, where if the zoning allows for it, which is a use group 5, or if it allows in use group 5, then it can be built as of right, with the exception of M1 districts, which have the existing special permit.
Well, so, but just to be clear, and I'm sorry not to cut you off, Jutan, we do make a loophole for homeless services, right, on the M1 text amendment?
No, so I mean, there is the city's obligation to provide housing for homeless. The current city's policy is to no longer put homeless in hotels, and they're working through other methods. Now, I'm not saying policies don't change. There's all kinds of things, right? Like the zoning is a law, right? And a policy is flexible as you're going through. So, you know,
I'm with you 100%, but that's not what the city's doing.
I know the policy is not to do something, regardless of sometimes they're in a position that they need to. I will at least go through the marching orders for some of those talking points. But I mean, I think the reality is that if in the future someone wants to build a hotel and they go through this discretionary process, then the hotel that's built is going to be a hotel. It would not transition because they're going to have to go through a very expensive process. Whereas today, a hotel could be built, and if it's not successful, then I think that some hotel operators may think of it as a backup plan to work with the city to provide services for homeless, sheltering homeless. It does still provide a need for the city, and they're going to have to figure out that obligation otherwise, or maybe pay even higher costs to hotel operators, because you are going to get into a supply demand, as Manny showed at the beginning of the presentation. We are meeting near our supply of hotels today. So, there's positives and negatives to this text. I think that communities have to weigh in on how they feel about it. We've heard from both sides about communities that say we want to see every hotel, and we've seen ones that say this doesn't make any sense. So there are good arguments on both sides here. And I think that, for your specific district and your needs and how you view hotels, you have to think about that for District 12.
So I'm gonna ask George to help me out. So George, can you help me out, please? So can you tell me? So you said I'm getting conflated, and if like I said, you know me, I don't mind being corrected. So what did I testify on earlier this year?
I don't recall, but I do recall that when I spoke to Councilman Riley about it, it was in regards to that Boston Road Hotel. It wasn't in regards to the city planning text amendment. At least that's my understanding. And my understanding of the M1 text amendment, for example, that was done in 2018. Anything filed by DOB after that law was passed, or was there some sort of aging process, maybe 2019, that it took effect, had to go through the community board, similar to what you're trying to do with this text amendment, because now this is citywide, it would turn into a ULURP process. What I'm asking you in regards to DHS is that we have two proposals that came to us in 2020, or at the beginning of before the pandemic, at the beginning of 2020, for one women's shelter and one men's shelter, and they weren't going through the M1 text amendment process, even though those hotels were being built in M1 districts. And that's why I'm asking, is there a provision or a loophole for homeless shelters? Because if I'm hearing you correctly, then they should have at the very least gone through the formality, which they have not done, even with city planning. They have not gone through a ULURP.
So I'm not sure about the 2018 rules. I'm not sure. There were some grandfathering provisions, and so they may have grandfathered in some way. There are grandfathering provisions with this proposal as well for existing, or like basically getting foundations in by a certain time, if you've already gone through a discretionary approval. We have an Arthur Avenue hotel that just was recently approved. They would not have to go through this again, right? Like, because they get grandfathered, even though they don't have foundations.
Yeah.
So there's several different grandfathering ways.
So we had that issue with the Vibe Hotel. The Vibe Hotel came to us right when we had rezoned that block. I forget the address, but it's on Furman and White Plains Road, 242nd or 241st, right where the old Getty gas station is. We rezoned it, but they filed their job right before we officially rezoned it, so they were able to grandfather theirs in. These new proposals, 1591 East 233rd Street. I will send you an email because it didn't even dawn on me to ask about that because I always assumed that there were loopholes because that's what city planning said back in 2018 that you were making carve outs for DHS. I'm curious to know if you're not making carve outs now.
There's no carve outs, but what I will say is, so homeless services or homeless shelters, formerly homeless housing. I mean, that use group is a use group 4, which is basically allowed in every district, other than R1s and R2s. So this proposal really doesn't affect those in any way as far as not allowing that service in anywhere in the city. So while maybe there wouldn't be a hotel built there that could convert into a homeless service, it doesn't mean that someone wouldn't just decide to build a homeless building or a homeless shelter, right? So maybe instead people will not try the hotel option and they'll just go directly to the homeless service community facility building. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying like this will not make it so that someone could not build a homeless shelter or something. So I didn't want to put those two pieces together as if this was going to in any way affect the homeless services other than them being possibly transition from hotels.
Yeah, I will explore it further with them. I'll send you guys an email tomorrow. I just want to talk about timeline. What is I see here that you're looking at later this year for it to go to the mayor for approval. If it takes effect, when do you expect it to? When will, as a community board, get this ULURP process?
I mean, they would see it as soon as city council approved it, which we would. This is June, July, August. We would say any buildings that were not vested by September to October, somewhere in that range.
Of this year?
Of this year, yeah.
Okay.
We'll say October, just being a little, conservative. Because you've got city council, which is 50 days. It'll come back to the city planning commission for the vote or the public hearing and vote, and then the city council. So.
And just for timeline purposes, and even for you say discretionary, our role is discretionary. This, like ULURP, if the council says no on a particular hotel application, does that kill the project?
It would, yes, because it would be a full ULURP, and the city council person would have. Well, listen, I mean, it's technically a vote, but we know how it works. And if the city council person was opposed to it, most likely the rest of the city council would also agree with that person.
Is there, for shits and giggles, is there wiggle room on that? Can we propose a 2 out of 3?
I mean, you can have you could do conditional recommendations however you want. Like I said, there's pros and cons to this. I think it's about thinking about how you want this for your community and then giving us that guidance.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with me.
No, that's good questions.
So let me just make a comment because if I'm wrong, then so be it. I need to go back and then look at because I do not want to, recommend anything incorrect to the board and the land use committee. And that's why I'm glad, as I said, if I'm wrong, so be it. I'll double check. But the problem is, of course, we have to vote on this because, of course, I'm looking at the timeline, and I guess my question is, I don't know why this wasn't presented to us at the land use committee meeting for May instead of June. But nonetheless, I want to make certain that I'm looking at I'll go back to my notes and look and see what we talked about, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, just again, city planning can say it. You're giving community boards a voice in the selection and deciding of, or a voice in deciding of these hotels. But this is now, instead of M1 districts, you're talking citywide. So in our district, even though we are looking eventually in the future of rezoning Boston Road so that we can do away with that provision altogether. This would give us a voice in any, I guess, anybody that's starting in October of 2021 wanted to build a hotel, they would have to come to the community board to say something. Am I correct?
Designated
That's,
area.
assuming
Okay.
assuming it gets approved, that would be correct.
Okay, fair enough.
So again, thanks, George, for the clarity. And I'm gonna go back in my notes and look and see what it was that I looked at, because as and what we talked about. And again, as I said, the councilman was just elected at that time, and maybe I'm misunderstanding that. So I will again double check, and then let the board know what comes of that, and also speak with George too, and go from there.
Anybody else have any questions on the hotels? If not, do we have any questions?
No, I don't think so. What I'm thinking is that it's a good idea that we do the ULURP process. And I think we've never had the opportunity in advance to say anything that would be helpful to our community and helping it grow without having the ULURP process. No one can come in and override us if we have a voice in it now.
No, I agree with you. We're going to have to take a good hard look at this, because I don't like it, but personally, but I'm not the deciding person. It's a land use committee,
Yeah.
and then the full board.
Yeah.
But if we're done, if we're done with hotels now, can we move on to the special permits?
Yep.
Okay, I'm
Thank
on
you.
the, I just see a screen here. Did anybody put that screen up? You see another item with my item? Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, the health and fitness citywide text amendment, which is a proposal to remove barriers for gym, spas, and licensed massage therapy. Health and fitness include a range of activities, including large commercial gyms like Blink and Planet Fitness. It also includes smaller studios like martial arts, yoga, or aerobics. There are also the therapeutic business, spas, and licensed massage therapy. Things have changed in New York City since the special permit was created. In addition to the significant growth of the health and fitness industry, desire for communities to access these amenities, regulations around massage therapy have changed. Massage therapists are licensed health professionals by the New York State Department of Education, and a registry of all licensed therapies is publicly available online. Yet these businesses continue to be regulated through zoning, placing significant burdens on small businesses. On average, the special permit takes more than 6 months to be granted, and often costs businesses between $30,000 to architects, attorneys, just to go through the process. Department of City Planning is proposing to remove the Board of Standards and Appeals special permit. All gyms, spas, and licensed massage therapy, also known as physical establishments. Gyms and spas would be considered commercial uses that would be allowed as of right. Smaller gyms and spas, those less than 10,000 square feet, would be allowed in all commercial and manufacturing districts. Gyms and spas that are unlimited in size would be allowed in our highest density commercial and manufacturing districts. This distinction between uses smaller than 10,000 square feet, those larger, is consistent with the way many other commercial uses are treated within zoning, such as clothing. Licensed massage therapy will be treated in the same way as other outpatient medical uses in zoning. Will be categorized as either ambulatory health care or healthcare offices. Would be allowed as a community facility in most residence districts, except R1 and R2, as well as in commercial and manufacturing. It's illegal to practice massage therapy without a license, and unlicensed massage will not be allowed as a use in since the Board of Standards and Appeal, when the Board of Standards and Appeal reviews an application for gyms, they occasionally impose conditions to address community concerns about noise and vibration that can result from activities such as dropping weights or using exercise equipment in unison. To continue to address these concerns, the proposal will also include additional performance standards for noise and vibration. Higher impact gyms have to have an acoustical engineer certified with the Department of Building that the proposed facility would be designed to meet these performance standards before they receive a certificate of occupancy. These provisions will apply in mixed-use buildings, in commercial, and MX districts. In lower impact facilities such as yoga, isometric exercise, and therapeutic services such as spas will not need to demonstrate compliance with this noise and vibration performance standard, but will still be subject to New York City. This slide shows two maps indicating the proposed changes to gyms and spas that are limited to 10,000 square feet, and the proposed changes to these facilities that are larger than 10,000 square feet. On the left versus the right. The areas in purple and orange allow these uses, while they are not allowed in areas in white. Okay, so the areas in white here are your residential areas. And again, these uses are commercial in nature, and again, would be allowed as of right. No longer have to go to the Board of Standards and Appeals to get permission. So they have to renew every 5, 10, and even the last presenter before I started to present, he spoke about a 20-year variance. So these things that have to be reviewed. It's no longer the case. Done in the residential areas that this map shows you the location for licensed massage therapy facilities. It takes up most of the map, and the reason for that is it's allowed in residential as well as commercial. And these developers are desiring to build a gym or a spa. They no longer have to go through expenses. Just go to the building department and file their application. And of course, the building department will check to see that the zoning is in place. And this is the timeline for this text amendment. CPC certified in May, and of course, Committee Board and Borough President, 60-day review. 60-day vote, and then the city acting city planning commission in September, and city council, which has the final say so. Are there any questions?
Actually, Manny, I have a few, but before we begin, let me, and this is why I'm glad George corrected me, because as you guys know, I'm not immune to being corrected if I'm wrong. I'm looking at my notes, and I totally had stated the wrong thing. So the councilman, as George said, does support this, and I'm looking at my notes that I wrote, and I stated that we do support this. So I apologize to everybody on here for stating the incorrect thing. So it was recommended that we do support the hotel text amendment. So the first the first presentation, like I said, we do support it, not that we don't. So my apologies to everyone here. I made a mistake. And as I said, I went back to my notes, and I recommend to the leadership team of the Land Use Committee, as well as committee itself, that we should support this, not that we should not. So my apologies. Manny, I'm trying to understand this. I mean, I've heard it at the borough president's office as well as this, and it's still, to me, I'm confused. So help me with this. I mean, I mean, I know I'm not the, well, anyway, go continue. I don't get it. So what are you asking us to support?
Okay, what we're asking for support, city planning wants to remove the BSA, the requirement for special permit that has to go through the BSA. We just want to remove that, and for these type of facilities, like gyms, the spas, the health facilities.
So why would they want to remove that? What's the, I mean, because BSA, as you saw from the previous presentation, was pretty good. You know, I mean, as far as you know, what we were able to get out of that. So why would we want to remove that for what is the advantage of getting BSA out of this process for gyms?
Right, it'll make it easier for anyone that's interested in having a gym or physical therapy, spots, etc. Just file with the Department of Buildings and be able to construct their project as of right. In other words, they don't have to, this is a commercial use like other commercial uses. When it comes to these type of uses, as I mentioned in the presentation, 40 years ago, the massage therapists were thought of that it was for sex type of uses, which is not the case now, that massage therapists have a license. So in other words, they will be regulated by zoning all these years. And when we looked into this on the city planning, we said, this is just a commercial use, like another, say, supermarket or a barber shop, etc. Why should they have to wait 6 months, spend $30,000 to $50,000, and especially now when small businesses not thriving, it sort of does not allow them to need to do unless they have this monies to go through the process, get something that we're proposing to be as of right, so that if they're targeting a commercial area for their facility, if they're a gym, that's fine. They can. Why can't they do it? They have to go through this water standards.
I'll add just a tiny bit to that. Many hit most of the high points, but back in the 70s when this was originally created, there was a concern over sexual things that were happening at massage parlors and things like that. At that time, there was no regulations at all from the city or state level. Since that, so basically the city then responded and put this, basically removed the use. So there's not even a use for any of these things today. So massage therapy, gyms, and spas do not have a use group to even be built anywhere in the city. So every one of them has to go through this BSA approval process. But since then, it was actually shortly after we approved this, the state actually started to regulate these uses as well. So that's why you now have licensed massage therapy, licensed things, right? So essentially what we're doing now is we're almost double regulating these things. These approvals only go towards licensed massage therapy and which licensed massage therapy really is, you're like, it's essentially doctor lights for you can actually get, doctors will prescribe you to go get massage therapy. So that's why it's actually considered a use group 4, and it's actually considered a community facility use for where they can be located. Whereas gyms and spas, we have, think of any of your gyms across the city, your Blink, your Planet Fitness, any of those. We now have, it's just a whole different thing than it used to be back in the 70s, So based on the sizes, we actually have kind of a system, know what, 30 years, 40 years of doing this to the BSA, what they need. And so we've actually put in basically incorporating the measures that the BSA incorporates for most of these just to protect the people. So most of these are really just going through this BSA process today and paying a very large cost, and pretty much all of them are approved. So there's really no reason to go through this discretionary process, enforcing them through all this regulation when it's now being regulated at the state, which wasn't in the 70s. So.
Carl, we have a question from George and from Denise Bond.
I'll defer to Denise. Go first, Denise.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that often when we hear about these regulations, when we choose to give up something, then there's like a little back door and something else happens to us. So I just want to be very clear that although we choose to give up this regulation, it is something that is continuing to be licensed moving forward. It's not something that it's an indefinite thing that's going to continue to be licensed. We don't have to worry about something coming back 5 years down the line to bite us in the rear.
I will say that there are unlicensed massage that happens in the city. Those are illegal and they will continue to be illegal. This has nothing to do with those. So if a massage moves in and does that, that would be something that you can flag for your district manager, for the buildings department, for other people, and that use can get shut down. This is really for licensed massage and making them not have to go through this basically duplicative process for being able to be located in the city. And all three of these uses typically are, they promote health. And we really are putting a pretty high burden for them. I hear your concern though, but I feel like this is a very good text.
Thank
That's
you for
my
that
personal opinion added to the end. Sorry.
All right. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I have two. Thank you, Carl. I think I have two questions. So in following up on what Denise just said, the state licenses this now. So if we do this, this will give the buildings department enforcement on action on if there was a violation.
Yeah, I mean the buildings department is still the one that does enforcement, and I mean they do it today. They're technically verifying that everyone has their BSA approvals. I don't know if there is I don't know how much massage therapy and how many BSA approvals have gone through this community district, but it would still be enforced by the buildings department. Yes.
So I'm not necessarily concerned about massage therapists. My concern more lies, and maybe I misread the map. It basically showed when Manny showed the map, it was highlighted in purple for all of Community Board 12. And I think that was for massage therapy. Yeah, that one.
So there is actually, Manny, go back one slide just so we can talk through these, because there's a distinction here between these two maps, and it's very subtle. The map on the left, so both of these are for gyms and spas. And so you can see they're really only in commercial districts, and then the manufacturing and C8 districts, right? And so the map on the left is for those that are under 10,000 square feet, and the map on the right is for those over 10,000 square feet. Really, the only difference is the one map on the left has the C1 commercial overlays. So the map on the right removes those C1 commercial overlays. So along White Plains Road, you have some C1. And then, Manny, if you want to go to the next slide. So to actually finalize my thought, so that removed all of the areas that were just residential, which again, there's a lot within this community where that is just residential districts. Licensed massage therapy is considered would be considered a use group for community facility use under most situations. There is some that are use group 6, but most of them would probably be use group 4. And they'd be treated like a doctor's office, essentially, where they can go in anywhere where multifamily residential is allowed.
So that's my concern. And we had this issue on a completely separate agency, DOT, with like the placement of bicycles, where jump bike was, oh, we'll just leave it wherever, and they could use GPS tracking. So you could theoretically have a neighbor that has a massage business, and that's going to attract a clientele. Parking is already an issue in this district, and people put cones up right now to hold parking spaces. They use garbage cans to hold parking spaces. So I guess my thing would be, I'm not trying to make it difficult for massage therapists, but just for my board to consider that literally what we're talking about. I live in Co-op City. My next door neighbor could run, and I don't know, would zoning allow somebody using their home as their business, similar to what doctors' offices are?
There's ways that they probably could do it. I mean, like you can't have the residential on the same floor as the community facility use. I mean, they almost have to like subdivide their home. They have to do certain things. I won't get into the building department and enforcement and all that, but basically anywhere today where you could have a doctor's office in a building, instead of it being a doctor's office, it could be the massage therapy, physical therapy type. So
it would have to be on a storefront, though. It couldn't be in somebody's apartment.
Yeah, that's my understanding of the rules. So
yeah, I mean, I think that's an important distinction because I get complaints from everything. I mean, even with I was reading it said low impact yoga. They have hot yoga now. I don't think people want their walls to be sweating on the other side of because they're running a hot yoga next door. So again, I think of like the weirdest things, but I always try to think of the constituents and their point of view. They don't necessarily want people taking up their parking spaces. And it sounds like to me that there may not be parking requirements that are going along with this, especially in residential neighborhoods. I mean, theoretically, hopefully massage therapists would have a local clientele and they wouldn't be driving, but you never know. So that's my only point that, I think we should consider.
George, you make some excellent points. I think for me, what I don't like, Juton, is the fact that you're somewhat hesitant to answer George's first question, and even whenever I hear that, my PhD advisor always reminded, whenever there's some hesitancy, that means that you're uncertain and you don't know, and that leads me to be leery.
Well, it gets into a little bit of the legal versus not legal, right? Like, and that's like for all legal uses, that is the answer. But then you get into people who do conversions and things like that, which would make
right. And I think that goes to Mrs. Bond's question that she asked a little bit earlier. But I would say this, unlike with the hotel text, I mean, we had plenty of notice for that. So I think I knew that, and that's why I apologize to this committee and the members for my and again, committee members, for the hotel text. Go back to my January report, and I state that we should support this. So again, for those of you that are on this call, go back to my January report and you'll see why I said that in item number 12. But for this, even though I guess we knew it was coming down the pike, what I don't like is that we have a deadline, because you guys want this out by what, July the 7th, I mean, July the what, 12th, right? Yeah, July the 12th. And I mean, we meet for the last time next week. So pretty much, we have to vote on something that we haven't had a chance to study. And I don't like that, because, my dad is always so you study, you study wrong, when you don't have time to study it. I don't know. Like I said, I will lean on the advice of the district manager as well as the leadership of this committee. But, I wish that you guys would come to us, beforehand, and not coming to us last minute asking us for a decision, because that's just, to me, it's disingenuous. And, that's just on me on a personal note.
Well, we do have until the July 12th. We're more than flexible to meet with you again anytime between now and then. I mean, it is up to the community boards how they want to hold their meetings. We did a notice, and then we have the 60-day referral period. So, I mean, I understand your concern, and it is pushing right up against the summer. And, like, if you don't want to meet in July, and then there's it does take part of July. So I hear your concern.
I mean, we can't meet in July. I mean, you know that it's in the city charter that we don't meet in the months of July and August. So anyway, I'm done.
You know, Mike, you're right. The second portion with these massage parlors and stuff, I think we got it too late to make any opinion on it until we fully investigate it, and it'll never be done by July. I mean, the hotel thing, we have a good idea. I just don't like the way this gym and spa and massage parlors was slipped in at the last minute. We should have had at least 90 days to review this.
Well, as I said, all non-ULURPs are 60-day referrals. You're more than welcome to, if you do want to submit a recommendation, have a conditional recommendation and either a for or against. You know, if you have specific things that we can't answer today, or we can also try to come back to you for your full board meeting before you're able to vote with answers. And if they meet, you know, if we can answer them, then great. I feel like there's a couple outstanding questions that you have that we might be able to answer between now and your full board meeting, if that
you have to
appeases the
understand
board.
what the board votes on in its board meeting is what comes out of the different committees that are on the board. That's why we have committees to study this, so we don't spend 5 hours at a Thursday night meeting discussing stuff that should have been discussed at committee meetings, which all board members are allowed to attend. And this is why I don't like this last minute thing on the gyms and spas and massage parlors. I think it was a tacky thing to do. I'm not saying you did it, but I think it was tacky to expect the board to turn around in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, if you want to say a couple of weeks, and give you approval or disapproval. The point is we weren't given enough time to actually study the proposal.
Oh, you gotta stay there and push it down.
I understand your concern. Yep. I mean, the board also, like I said, could have a conditional recommendation, however they want, that then could be contingent on city planning giving answers that you feel are adequate. That way you have made a decision going to the full board that you can then decide based on our answers. It's just another way of doing it. Some boards are more comfortable doing that than others.
If we don't have this by June, for our June meeting, which we can't have the time to study it, we'll have to wait to September, and that's past what you want. You want to have this on July 17th.
Well, I mean, it's up to the community board. So
There's a question from Abe.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to know if there's any wiggle room for possible extension because this was delivered to us on later notice. And do you mind elaborating on what you just said, that we can request something, I forgot what it's called, a recommendation, like what would that entail of? This is totally new to me.
sure. So the first part is, you know, this is a citywide text. There would not be an extension. All 59 community boards received the recommend referral on, man, can you forward one slide? Oh, it doesn't have it. I believe it was March 5th. Anyway, I don't have the date, sorry, off the top of my head. But, and then that 60 days goes until the middle of July. Different boards have different ways that they're managing some of these things. Some have questions that they allow, so they will in committee make a recommendation that would then go to the full board, even if they have several outstanding questions. City, you know, and then they let city planning know, and then we would get back to you. And in some way, that condition is contingent on the board being comfortable with those answers, right? Like you could change your mind at full board and say, we don't like what the answers were, or any number of things. You could change your recommendation. I'm not saying that's something you have to do, but it is an option. If the board wants to get a recommendation in for this within that time period.
Stricker, let me ask George a question, our district manager. George, did the councilman give an opinion? We didn't talk to him about that today. Did he give an opinion on this?
No, I'm not aware of this particular one. No.
Okay, so and Juton, and that's why I'm mad. So Manny, I'm pleased. Like I said, if I'm wrong, because now I'm kind of mad at you, because if we knew that this was coming, you know, again, we had the April Land Use Committee meeting, we had the May Land Use Committee meeting. So even if this came out in April, you know, I don't like, even with the conditional, I'm looking at what was written in the chat, even with the conditional recommendation, you know, to ask this committee to vote on something to refer to the general board next week, Thursday, I don't like it, you know, because as I said before, you don't have, and it could be a good text, but this is what happens when you throw stuff on people at the last minute. It could be a filet mignon and it winds up being like a steak that's been thrown in the trash because of course you do something like this. I don't like it at all. So again, I can definitely say for the first one, based on my notes, you know, I was wrong. We should support it. For this one, I can't offer a recommendation. It seems like we don't have anything from, you know, our district manager or our councilman. So I think the only thing I can suggest, and let me know if you guys are okay with this, is, you know, have a conversation, you know, George, myself, and maybe leadership of this committee have a conversation with Councilman Rowland and see what the recommendation would be, and then bring that with the hotel to the general board meeting. So we can discuss that and tell me what you think.
Actually, Michael, I think we should split the two into two different votes. The hotel and then this one.
That's up to you, Mr. Stricker.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm going to.
Well, Manny or Juton, these are being handled separately. We're not voting on the hotel, or are we?
Well, it's separate. The hotel is
Okay.
separate from the
Okay.
health. Yeah.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah. Like the first one, prove that. You don't like the second one, it's up to you.
Do we have any other questions for me? Anybody on the committee?
No, it doesn't seem so.
There being no questions, I will recommend.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I've been trying to raise my hand, scream at y'all if y'all could give me a minute. But I don't know if y'all ignoring me or y'all cannot see me because I'm in the airport. Can y'all hear me and see me or no?
Or are you trying to raise your hand using the icon?
Can y'all see me? Yes or no?
I
No,
can't see you.
can't see you.
Raise your hand.
We can't see you.
We cannot see you.
You cannot see me.
No.
Okay, all right. I'm in the airport, but anyway, y'all can hear me. So I mean, I've been hearing this testimony. Thank you for CPC. I got two questions. One is regarding the hotel stuff. I agree with that 100%. I get Dr. Burke the chair in regards to that it came unexpectedly, but that's a good thing for us as a board to have control of. And like the gentleman from CPC said, I mean, the only issue is that if somebody's already up and running, breaking ground and got their foundations poured, they'll be grandfathered. This goes back to me and us speaking about whenever something gets built on our community board, we will want for them to come to us like that. We could catch it in the beginning, not after the fact, after the foundations are poured. But I think it's a good thing for us to have as a board leverage. I don't think too many hotels are going to be built because whatever hotels were proposed, they're already either up and running, in the process, or under construction. And then I have a question regarding the amendment to the spas. In our neighborhood, we have a bunch of karate schools. From my experience dealing with the Department of Buildings, karate schools are considered physical kosher establishments. So a lot of them that you see around are illegal because they never got special permits. So is CPC saying that moving forward, karate schools do not need to go for the special permit? Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Well, you know what? That's actually good news because a lot of these people are operating illegal karate schools, and they don't even know it. There's one that just opened up not too far from the community board, and when I spoke to the gentleman, he didn't even know that a karate school needed a special permit. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, I don't know if I discouraged them, to move forward with this project, but I broke it down to them and told them, listen, from my experience, karate schools are considered physical culture establishments, and you need a special permit from city planning. So this is actually a really good thing for that. Now, regarding the massage parlors in residential areas and people's homes, like George was mentioning, that's something different. That I think we should speak about. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to be on the call. I'm about to jump on a plane to talk to you guys later.
Well, hold on, Alfredo. So what do you recommend? What are you saying? You saying that we should go with this or not?
100%. With us having control of any hotels being built throughout New York City, 100%. That's just me myself.
Okay, we're good with the hotels. I'm talking about this the gym stuff.
Well, the gym, when it comes down to karate schools, and the reason why I'm saying this is because, again, a lot of karate schools are not legal. They may seem legal. They have a nice dojo. They have a nice signage. But E30. They have a lot of signage, but they're not legal in regards to that. None of them have city planning special permits for the karate school. Now they're talking about they're talking about spas and massage parlors. That's something different. But if we cannot separate the karate school from that whole part, then I guess we got to shut it down. But the karate school, not having to get a special permit is a really good thing.
So what is your recommendation, Alfredo?
I recommend city planning remove the spas and massages, because from what I heard, the little bit I did hear, that they're going to allow spas and massage parlors in residential areas that normally you would need a special permit. Now it's going to be falling under use groups 4, which is what I heard, or use group 6 if permitted.
I want to just clarify.
Hang on for a second, Jutan. I need because Alfredo's about to hop on a plane. So yeah. Alfredo, would you say conditional? Yes, no. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yes, conditional, yes. But again, having guys, a massage parlor, and throughout New York City, you need a special permit to touch people's other bodies. You need a special permit. Everybody does not know that, but you need a special permit from city planning to do that. A gym and all these places, they need that. If they saying that they're going to allow massage parlors up to X amount of square footage in people's private properties as a doctor's office, because remember, a doctor's office you could have anywhere. It's considered use group 4, community facility. If they're going to consider a massage parlor a community facility, then that could be a problem because of what George mentioned, parking and and so forth and so on.
Okay, I want to clarify one thing on the use group 4 with the massage parlors. So the licensed massage therapy would be the only thing that would be allowed in the residential areas. And again, that being licensed, which means that it would be regulated and it would not be allowed to be in someone's home in the way that it would be split in some sort of partition building, without it being basically a full ground floor that would be the licensed facility, because they are regulated.
Okay, so you clarified it. That's good. I think we need
for the gyms and the spas, that would only be allowed in the use group 6s, and use group 9s. Use group 6 for the smaller ones and use group 9 for the larger ones. And those are the ones that I was saying would be more likely that someone would do something like splitting
in White Plains Road,
having a Pilates studio in their residential house or something, right? Like that's the one that would be more likely to do something that would not, but it doesn't mean that's legal for buildings. It just means that would be more likely to do something like that.
Okay.
So
all right, so that's understandable. So basically, use group 6s will those type of establishment will fall on the use group 6s, which is a corridor like White Plains Road, Boston Road, Gun Hill Road, those type of places that have commercial overlays. So like if we want to put a karate school, it will be permitted as of right. We don't got to get a special permit. We don't got to get none of that. Just a straight up alteration application for the karate school.
But getting to the concern about the parking, there's nothing in this text that regulates the parking further than what the existing rules do. And so basically the same regulations would apply that it would be if it was a doctor's office, which could be built in that same building. So really it's just allowing some additional uses, which I'm not saying wouldn't put some pressure because those aren't allowed today. So, right. So there might be some additional ones, which then could create some additional parking. So that, that's not something that we can directly address in this proposal.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Don.
Have a safe trip, Fernando.
Alfredo.
By the way, now we can see you,
not
Alfredo,
Fernando,
too.
Alfredo.
Alfredo. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Close enough.
All right, guys. Be safe. Talk to you guys later.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody else have any comments? Being none, let's close this portion of tonight's committee meeting. So
There was a question from Denise on hotels in the chat.
Well, we closed the
Dr.
chat
Burke
already.
answered that.
Okay.
It was answered.
Sorry.
The question was answered. It's okay.
So if there's no further questions on this portion of the land use committee meeting, I recommend that we close it as of 8:40 p.m.
Well, Mr. Stricker, before we close the meeting, are you going to call for the vote for the recommendation, sir?
I said close this portion of the meeting. I did
Okay.
not say close the meeting.
Okay. Okay. I got you.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
Sure. I make a motion that we close this portion of the meeting as it pertains to the tax amendments.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Just to hear a couple ayes. Okay, aye. Okay. Now, okay. Now, I would like to have a motion for the approval of the hotel recommendation. So I have a,
Yeah, without question, Mr. Strickland. So I make a motion that we as Community Board 12 vote to approve the hotel tax amendment as listed because it will be beneficial to Community Board 12.
do I have a second?
Second, John Isaac.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, now here comes the other one. I'm looking for a motion to deny what they're asking for in the spas, gyms, and massage parlors because we didn't have enough time to evaluate it. And I know what city planning said that, we can do a conditional vote and give them issues. But you know something? Even a conditional yes vote can cause us to lose what we don't want. So I recommend that we just oppose it outright. But I need a motion from somebody in the committee to say that.
I'm sorry, just to move forward at just a point of clarity. So if we give the conditional recommendation with the approval, we cannot go back and say no? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Stricker?
Yeah, exactly. We're giving them what's going to happen basically is that we're going to tell them this, that, this, and they come back and they say they can't do it. And they responded to what our conditions were, but we might not like what their response is. So I don't like to give them any leeway to do this.
So in other words, sorry,
go ahead.
No, what I was saying is that if we feel that whatever the conditions that we put forth are not met, you're saying to us that we cannot say no after that.
Right. We gave them what they did. They honored their agreement with us. They reviewed it and they came back and said, well, we don't feel that, we can do this, that, and so forth. So we're stuck already giving them a conditional approval, but they don't have to meet our conditions. That's why I like to give them a negative as opposed to a positive.
Okay,
That's
that
my
part was not, right. No, I understand what you're saying, Mr. Stricker, but what you were saying seems contrary to what was said before, unless I misinterpreted something.
what I said before.
No,
I
not
prefer
you,
without-
not what you said, what someone else said
Oh,
in reference to the conditional approval.
yeah, but look, I've been on the board almost 50 years.
No, I
And we got
understand,
burnt-
sir. I understand.
No. We got burnt too many times by giving a conditional approval, and then they say, well, we can't honor your approval, but we moved on. And I just don't want to see that happen. We could tell them, you know, that the massage parlor has to be 200 feet wide. And they come back, well, we're not going to do that. But since we gave them a conditional approval to their request, they can continue and move on. You know, they don't have to meet our requirements because the board is only advisory. I'd rather tell them no and let them come back to us. I mean, this was thrown at us at the last meeting. We really, really have to study this because it could have a major impact on the community. And, you know, but it's up to the committee to do what they want to do. I mean, I'm not the person, I'm not a dictator. You guys take a vote, somebody make a recommendation, somebody seconds it, and we'll take a vote on it. And we'll go from there. But somebody has to bring up a recommendation and a second, and then we'll vote on it. But I will tell you right now, I am opposed to it. So do we have a motion on the floor one way or the other?
Well, hang on, Mr.
Good.
It looks like there's still some unreadiness. I think there's Mr. Juton. I mean, Juton has his hand up.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Mr. John.
I wasn't sure if I would be recognized because we're past that part. My only comment, I hear your concern. I think Mr. Stricker is a straight no vote doesn't really tell the commission anything. A recommendation, even if those recommendations are not agreed upon, does tell the commission something. It also helps you document publicly your concerns with something so that in the future you can always refer back to that and say, we've been saying these things for 50 years, right? And that allows you to basically be empowered rather than a no vote, which doesn't tell us anything and just says this committee board doesn't want it and we don't know why. And it also can sometimes help you, tie something into your statement of needs and other things. I'm not saying this applies to that. I'm just saying in general, conditional recommendations are always beneficial if you have a reason to give a list of recommendations. So I'm just throwing that out there as general because it does help us anytime that there are conditions. And we do always listen to them, even if we don't always do them, because there are different reasons we can't, whether it be scope or other things, but we are always listening, and the rest of the city is too. So
I'll tell you, I've been working with city planning since the days of Bob Asnoa, so it's been a long time. I don't know if you remember him or know who he is.
Yes, I do. I remember him.
So anyway, I'll just take a motion from somebody in the committee on what they want to do, and then we'll take a vote on it. If you want to do it with, feedback to city planning, conditional vote, we can do that. I will go the way the committee goes. So if somebody wants to make the motion, we can do that.
Mr. Stricker, before we do that, I appreciate that your leadership and you and Harry. George, let me get your opinion on this. I mean, as our DM, we kind of rely on you too. So Alfredo brought up the karate schools versus the massage parlors, right? I think we're all looking for clarity because, like I said, I know that for me, I need time to study an issue before even saying something. And so, I think we've all realized that this is, and that's why I'm kind of mad right now. I really am, because I don't like voting. Would provide some clarity if you can.
All right. So my understanding, and I think Jutan answered this with Alfredo's question. So, and you, John, or Manny, just correct me. We can approve this with the condition, but actually, even without conditions, I think what we're saying for the massage therapy places specifically is that they have to be handled similar to like a dentist's office that's in the basement of a building, for example. So I live in Co-op City. In my building alone, I have a foot doctor and I have a regular internist. That's what I'm understanding. The massage therapy would be similar to an office that way. My concern initially was that this would be one of those facilities or one of those things where you could operate it from home, but that's not the case. Am I stating that right, Jutan?
Yes, because it's licensed, that basically removes that option. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not somebody operating a massage parlor in their apartment. This is somebody operating a massage parlor similar to a dental office or a doctor's office, or even daycares or community facilities, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so daycares or community facilities similar in that, there's tons of daycares here in Co-op City. There's tons of daycares throughout the district. So I think, and I guess what I'm reading or inferring from what I'm hearing as well is that because it's licensed, there are provisions that they have to meet for DOB standards. So if they're going to pull a permit, they have to meet certain requirements. What Alfredo was speaking to with the karate schools is that he's absolutely correct. Cultural or physical cultural establishments are like gyms, like LA Fitness on East Chester Road. The karate schools were required to do that, but the requirements for that are very onerous and actually don't really apply in a situation like a karate school because they don't have fitness equipment. They don't have stuff like that. So, it would be easier for, a karate school or a dojo to open. And, that might be good. I'm honestly, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. I mean, I can see the need for that. I think, this is city planning or the city trying to, step into this century in terms of, addressing the needs of the community. I wouldn't have a problem with a massage therapist that, was licensed, had a storefront. And and the same thing for a karate school. I wouldn't have an issue with, especially some of our empty storefronts on White Plains Road, if, they were repurposed for, as karate schools or something just to get foot traffic that, that wouldn't be a problem. As a matter of fact, the community boards on 229th Street, on 228th Street, right on the corner, we do have, what do they call that? Oh my goodness. It's like not MMA, but they have that gym where a CrossFit gym. Yeah. So that might be right now operating illegally. But with this permit or with this redoing, they would be able to operate. If they went to the buildings department, got the proper permits, everything would be legit.
So George, to me, you said something that is a touch confusing. So I need a little bit of clarity on this. You used the analogy of a daycare center. Now there's a daycare center right down the street from me that operates out of their home, right? So
you can do that. So this we have right on Baychester, right across the street from the Baychester train station, there's a dentist, and he's an oral surgeon, and he's operating in the basement of a house. But it's right across the street from the gas station, on the same side of the street. I know him because he's actually in my plan. Like, he was one of the dentists that we were looking at when we needed an oral surgeon, so he came up as being close to where I live. And it is a weird thing because it's in a row. All the homes are attached. They're semi-attached homes. You would never know that there was a dentist there, but the dentist operates in the back basically in the backyard, and he has the whole basement. And to Jutan's point, they have a separate system. They have separate cooling, separate heating. Basically, it's like your regular old office anywhere, but it's placed in a residential neighborhood, and it's, to your point, Dr. Burke, it is in someone's private home. But I think one thing should be noted: not all daycares, because daycares operates differently, and maybe Jutan or Manny can speak to that, because you can have, like, I could run it. I shouldn't say that I could run a daycare, but I could have kids here if I took a contract with the city. So
I know there's some differences with daycares than there are with like straight medical offices. I don't know the differences. I can also say, I won't say every daycare is operating completely legally either. Right? So there's that, but with an office, like it would be completely separate, even if it is in the same building.
Yeah.
And you can't have the living space, the habitable space for the person that living there on the same floor as the office space or the therapeutic massage therapy. So
yeah, actually, this would be my last point to Dr. Burke's point. So they would have to, for example, usually these things are on walk-ins because you would have to meet ADA accessibility requirements, right?
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a state federal law.
Yeah, so if it was on, like, for example, many of our homes, you walk into the basement and then you have a first floor, which is the first apartment, and the basement serves as an accessory to the first apartment. And then the third floor is the second apartment. This wouldn't be like this. The dentist or the daycare or the massage parlor couldn't be on the first floor if it was a walk up, for example, because they would have to meet the ADA requirements. Unless they built a really long ramp. Are you good, Dr. Burke? I can't hear you.
I'm muted. I mean, I was muted. I'm just right now. I really have no recommendations today, and I hate to say that because, like I said, I'm trying to, study the entire issue. And, you make an excellent point. Alfredo makes an excellent point, and I tend to agree with Mr. Stricker. I don't want to say yes, and then it comes back to bite us in the butt. So, personally, I would like to table it, but we don't have time. I'm trying to figure out a way if we could table it until. And then we have an enforced Jutan and Manny and everybody else to come back and study the issue before making a recommendation, because I don't like taking votes and voting blindly. That's just that's like the nursery rhyme, three blind mice. So that's just my opinion. But again, I'm just one person, George. As you know, it's not about me, it's about we. So whatever the board decides is what I'm going with.
So as they said previously, we can have a conditional, and part of the condition could be that we need more time to review this. I know the Community Board 8 did something similar on a different vote. I'm forgetting what it was, but we have that option as well. It can be part of the condition because not only the city planning get it, but Jutan, everybody gets that, right? Our conditional. The borough president will get it. The city council will get it. And if enough people say that there wasn't enough time to examine this, but just so that we're all aware, I mean, the city planning's, I don't know why they did this. Maybe it was done purposely, but we have known because we've been talking about the rollout of these text amendments for quite some time. It's just this is the first time we actually got this text amendment, because at our last meeting, if I'm not mistaken, we did the zoning for the MTA zoning. So they're kind of slow roll. There's two other ones still coming, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, one more.
The fresh one does not have applicability to Board 12.
Okay.
Right.
So
and again, George, I agree with you. I think the one that we knew the most about was the hotel. I mean, like I said, I knew about that back in January. So I feel very confident in that one. But anyway,
Well,
I have a question then. So at this point, we cannot get any further extension because we kind of have to make some decision this evening because we can't go beyond the July, what is it, 12th, 15th date? Is
17th.
that correct?
Correct.
I mean, there is a small window of time after, but I doubt that you were going to be meeting in July anyway. And by the time that it would come back around to September, this would already then, I don't know exactly, but it would most likely be past City Planning Commission by that point.
All right. So we would have to, even if we get a conditional, even if we say yes to a conditional approval with bumping out the date a little bit further, it couldn't go beyond that July date anyhow. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, we would hear your concern about the timing. But I mean, the reality is that we would probably not extend the time through September in order to allow the board to meet again if they didn't meet over the summer. I do know several boards are meeting in July. I'm not saying that you should or need to or have to, but that is always another option that I'm sure you all don't like me for saying that right now, but it is an option.
well, then okay. Well, I'm glad you said that. So let me take a poll of the members of this committee. All right. Again, I know that we need time off, but if you want to call a special session prior
I'm saying
to
go
that,
right now. No, absolutely not.
Okay. Hang on for a second, George.
No. This is not up for discussion. This is not up for a vote. We're not meeting in July, August. That's it. We did that last summer. We're not doing it now. Yes, you do need me to authorize these meetings because you need my WebEx.
That is true, but well, anyway, let me just say this: that we do need you, but I'm sure that we can find other ways. The bottom line is that we don't want to meet if we don't have to. So
nobody comes to meet in July, Mister.
What's that?
We don't need to meet in July. Nobody comes to these meetings. So
and that's that. There you go.
Shut him down.
Yeah.
What's that?
Look, my recommendation is you vote, and again, stop trying to influence people. Let people just vote the way they feel that they want to vote. Somebody makes a recommendation and they vote. Everybody here, Dr. Burke included, Carl Stricker included, you're trying to influence people when you say, because you may inadvertently be doing that. Oh, I think we should do that. I think we shouldn't do that. Just let people vote. People heard what they heard and they can vote. That's what the board is for. We don't need people applying pressure to say vote one way or the other. They get the information from the city agency, and then it's somebody makes a recommendation, and then we vote. That's it.
Actually,
Well,
George,
from my perspective, I was just trying to get clarity. I didn't feel pressured by anyone.
Well, hang on for a second, because I'm going to respond to that, Mrs. Bond. So I can't speak for Mr. Stricker, but I can definitely speak for me. I definitely was not. I disagree with that, George. I definitely was not trying to influence people. As he said, it's not about me. It's about we. So however any individual board member wants to vote, they can. So you've never heard me say that. So you were wrong there. I can't speak for Mr. Stricker. I can only speak for me.
Well, I can speak for myself, and I tell you, he's way off base because I said I would take any recommendation from the committee. That's what I said. I didn't tell him to vote against it or for it. I need it, but I do need a
That's
recommendation.
exactly what you both said. I'm not going to argue with you, but that's precisely what you both said. You had to correct yourself on the first one, Dr. Burke, because you said that the councilman and yourself were both recommending against it. Again, I don't want to have a fight here. So let's not, I'm not splitting hairs here. Just somebody make a recommendation so we can go. It's already 9:03. We've been on this for a long time. We got meetings tomorrow. We got a meeting Wednesday, and we got a meeting Thursday. So let's go. Let's get on with it.
Well, as the chair of the committee, let's do the hotel first. I need a recommendation to approve the changes for the hotels.
Mr. Stricker, didn't we vote on that already?
We voted that on. We voted on that already.
We did already, Mr. Stricker.
Oh, we did? My apologies. I was getting late, so I guess I'm falling asleep at my age. But okay, so let somebody make a motion on the other stuff, the gyms, the spas, and the massage parlors.
I'd like to make a motion. Excuse me. I'd like to make a motion that we give a conditional approval for this bill or whatever it is at this point, so that we can actually make it a precedent that we need to have these things in a more timely fashion. So we can put in maybe something about the timing of this. I don't know if that's appropriate or not. I just do agree that we do need to move on, but not because we're feeling bullied or anything like that. Just because we're going around in a bit of a circle at this point. But everyone needs to understand and be clear about what the issues are. So I think that asking clarifying questions, there's never any harm in that, to just make sure that it's all clearly understood.
I second
Okay,
the motion.
Okay, we have a second. Do we, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, any nays? Okay, unanimous. So I believe we're done with the meeting. Unless there's something else somebody wants to bring up. Is everybody satisfied to go home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'll personally make the motion to close the meeting. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, folks, for less than the 2 hours and 7 minutes and 31. We had this. It was a good meeting.
Say.